Their journey is not my journey, and my journey is not their journey. I was just a person who was in their journey to help them, guide them. Now, the rest of their journey, they have to decide on their own. And that is what I say to all the parents out there, that don't be controlling of your children. Let them have their own freedom of mind. Let them have their own freedom of choice. And that way you will bring out better human beings and better society. We create better society with.
100%. Welcome to the Stronger, Fitter, Happier podcast. I'm your host Vin, and today I am joined by the wonderful Kajal. So if you don't know who Kajal is, I don't know what you've been doing really, because she is everywhere at the moment. And when I say everywhere, she's blowing up on Instagram, blowing up on Facebook. And I think the lockdown in the last year, you've really managed to thrive and build an audience and, just gain lots of followers and things like that. So I hope all of you supporters of Karjal are listening and watching and just getting to know Karjal on this episode a bit more. So the reason why I've brought Karjal onto the Stronger, Fitter, Happier podcast is because Karjal, well, from what I know of Karjal, she is a very strong character. So what I mean by a very strong character is she has been through a lot of trials and tribulations in her life and is still here to tell the tale. So that's what she is doing on this podcast, here to tell the tale of her trials and tribulations and how she has managed to navigate life with a strong, fit and happy mindset. So, Karjal, if you don't mind, just giving a brief intro into who you are and what you're about.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you. It's such a nice pleasure to be on stage with you. It's awesome. And also, to be able to inspire people and, followers and new followers from this podcast, I really appreciate all your support. And just through this kind of platform, you get to know more about me. So I am Kajal, and my business is Kajal's Healthy Kitchen. Many of you may also know me through Kajal Discover Wellbeing, which was my first baby. And then my second baby is Kajal's Healthy Kitchen. Right. Come a long way, in life. And like Vin said, a strong lady. Yes, we're all very strong. And I always say to people that there is another stronger person behind this, which is always sleeping. And it always comes handy when it is needed. And to build that stronger inner person, it has taken me a long, long way. If you met me, for example, 16, 17 years ago, I was a complete different person. If you met me 10 years ago, I was a complete different person. This Kajal is always climbing, learning, through giving, learning, giving, and taking. So there is always that in life, the balance of, yin and yang. We take and we receive and we give, right? It is all. And I think in life, taking problems is also part of our life. And I think it is my time now to give a little bit of wisdom to what and how I am where I am. And, that's life.
Yeah. So anyone thinking, listening and who may not know much about you, may be thinking, that's fine. You're someone who does, who leads a good business. And, a lot of people do that, but they may not know that you behind the scenes have been through a lot in terms of outside of like a career. And they may look at you now and think, oh, you're very confident on camera. You do all these live cooking demos and, have guests in your house and home, and you do all these wonderful, kind of workshops and things. And it's great, but not everyone can do stuff like that. Well, I would like to challenge that, because you potentially, just like you were telling me off camera, years ago when you first kind of got married at a very young age and things like that, you are a very different person. And going through everything you've been through, and where you are now, and, raising 4 wonderful children and all of that has helped you build this resilience, build this confidence, build this kind of figure that everybody else sees online now. And do you think that you could potentially, where you started, where you first like kind of emerged into the adult life, do you feel you would be where you are now, like when you were there?
So I've always, as a child, I always used to dream, about doing something. And, my dream was to wear those office suits and walk in an office and, work in front of a screen. That used to be me, right? As a young girl. But things were very different when we were little. We were not very well off at all. And I grew up in a family where my dad was, there, but not there. So he was there, but he was alcoholic. He was very much into gambling, and his world was very different. Though he was always in the house and out and about, but mother was the breadwinner. Mother was the person we looked forward to for love, for attention, for, guidance. It was the mother. But my mother was such a person who taught us to always respect. He's your father, you respect him. She came from that era where women always thought of their husbands as their gods. And so mom always also taught us that that's your father, no matter how he is, you got to respect him. So we grew up in a family where to have one meal a day was wow. And, we never went out to eat. We didn't have many people we didn't have family. My mother's family had denounced her when she got married to my father because they didn't approve of him. So since the age of 19 to the day she died, she'd never seen her family or heard of them. So that is how life was for her. Now, her upbringing in us was something that I always cherish in a way because of who she was. I've taken the positive side of her and, practiced that in my day-to-day life. Now, upbringing was good. I got married at the age of 17. You can say a little escape from, the home that was not a very happy home. So, a little escape. It was more like an arranged marriage. And it is not something that I had wished for, but it happened. And 17, I was. At the age of 18, I gave birth to my first son.
Wow, that's a very young age.
My mother started from there. And yes, it was a challenge because I was a child, raising a child, and it was quite a challenge. But fast forwarding life, marriage was fine. I was married to a man who was quite controlling in his own ways. He was controlling. He needed to have control of everything: who you speak to, what you wear, what you eat, where you go, where you shouldn't go, everything. So my life was very much in four walls. And that was fine because I had seen my sisters do that. I'd seen my mother do that. And for me, that is probably the normal thing to do. Yet, talking about that, as a child, I used to watch a lot of Bollywood movies. And I the love and the romance and singing in the garden and all that kind of thing. Oh, shit, right? Sorry.
That's fine.
The reality strikes when things happen. The way we are raised in our society, in our family, we are actually taught what we shouldn't do, but actually there is no logic behind it. If you really think, it is more about suffering. There's so much suffering. There's no shortcut in life. We're never taught any shortcuts in life, that okay, if things don't work out, break out, call it a day. So being in this marriage, I had 4 children. I was getting on with my life. And then, of course, the law of attraction had to attract. And my husband fell in love with my cousin. And they had there was an affair going on. I didn't know, but I got to know halfway through.
Yeah.
And when it was already quite late, I'm guessing, because I would never have found the truth anyway. And I found out the truth, and from, of course, my cousin, who one day calls me and says, "Hey, Kajal Ben, I'm in love with your husband," and
Wow.
you know, and this is how it all happened. And the shock of all of that, the behavior shock, the trust broken, everything came to a point where in my life I thought, you know what, actually, what do you really believe? Because what you believe is what your parents said, your husband is your God. Having family around is your cushion, your support. If you get married, we will support you whenever things go wrong. Family and community support you. But in my case, actually, I felt completely alone. I felt my heart was broken, by the man I actually trusted, and led my whole life from the age of 17 to this man. I raised kids. I did, raised his home, raised his wife, raised his family, everything. And, then just for something that you call lust, somebody completely breaks everything. So that was quite and then initially everybody, of course, say to you that it's a fling, Kajal. It is going to fizzle out, it's going to fizzle out, stay in there. So I stayed in that marriage for not a year, not two, not three, almost 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I looked after her as well when she was pregnant by, the grace of God, and I looked after her, not as a person, as a wife to my husband, but more as a human being, because that's the character I had in me, that if another woman needs you in need, when she has nobody to look after her, you do it. But at the same time, I realized that doing everything that I was doing and being put through whatever I was being put through, there was a lot of, I had lost myself completely, entirely.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was completely, I was not a wife anymore. I was actually not feeling like a woman with respect anymore. I had completely lost myself. I had even lost whatever the society had made me to believe. I had lost that trust.
So, how old were you at this time then?
So I was 32.
Okay, and how many children did you have at the point?
I had
Pardon?
4 children.
You'd already had 4 children at this point.
Yes, yeah.
And you may not, if you don't feel like answering this, don't feel like you have to. But was your cousin's child your husband's child?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. And he's the one who actually, he was not in the country when she was pregnant. So he said to me, "Will you please look after her and take her to the hospital?" And she wasn't living with me then or anything, but she was on her own. And, "Will you take her to the hospital? She needs to have a scan because she's not feeling well." So I had to do that. And I did that. And, the doctor had no idea, by the way, Win. This is funny business. The doctor thought I was her younger sister, and she's telling me, "Look, never get pregnant before marriage, because this is what happens," because my cousin was crying. She was, emotionally broken, and she was crying. And I remember, and it was a hilarious moment at that point. But we take everything with a positive look, and we say, it's a learning curve. We are humans. In this case, we were 3 humans with 3 different needs. My husband at his need, my cousin on her own need, and here I was, a mother with 4 children with my need. So our needs were different, our outlooks were different, but we were all stuck in one thing together, and that thing was a vicious circle, basically. And then there was that society outside us, which everybody was saying to me, "Kajal, don't do this, don't do that. Do not leave him, do not do this." Mainly financial burden was what was, thrown at me, that if you leave him, you're not going to get anything because he's going to rob you of everything, and, he's going to take your children away. I mean, all these dramas took place. There I was, a completely naive person who had no idea what I was going to do next, or what's going to happen next. But things did happen, and things did happen in a very ugly way that we had to part. 4 years, I knew that things had to end somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was very depressed, very, very depressed. I was having a nervous breakdown, and I felt very alone. I had no friends, families. When you talk about family, there was more of an imbalance completely, because he's a well-known guy. He's a very, big out there. And here I was, just basically nobody, right? So it was very much like people did want to support me, but they couldn't support because they were scared of him. He's a politician back home. So he was very much into politics and very, very well, high status person. So people didn't even want to wrong him or even be in his wrong books. So here I was. And one day I had a friend who said to me, you got to come out of this, because if you don't, you're going to die. And if you're going to die, your kids, literally, this was a brutal talk, right? That you're going to die. And if you're going to die, your kids are going to suffer just like you're suffering, because there will be no mother to them. There will be no other mother to them. And probably the stepmother will take over. And if she's so unethical person, then what is she going to give it to your kids? This was the talk. And she started sort of empowering me in that sense. And things had to happen in such a way that they went a little ugly. And I was in the hospital one day, and I woke up, and the police said to me, you cannot go back to your home because of your safety, and you need to make a decision now.
And is this all still in Kenya?
In here, in England.
In the UK?
So we had moved to UK because he was British and I was Kenyan. We had to come here for the rights of our children. But then we realized that it wasn't going to happen in a month or two. We had to stay here for 3 years because he had British overseas. So then, as I said, law of attraction makes everything happen. Everything happens. When you dream about something, be very careful. And I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, so we were in the UK, and things happened. And then I said before even I could say anything, my friend said to the police that she's going to come to my house, and I'm going to go and pick the kids up, and I'm going to, things will get sorted out. So I ended up at my friend's house with my 4 children. To cut the story short, on the 3rd day of being in our house, she said to me, you cannot be depressed, because if you get depressed, the social care will get involved, and your kids, you will lose your kids. So there's no way you can even show you're depressed or prove you're depressed. You have to pull out. You have to show that you're working, you're able to earn. And I looked at her and I said, I have never worked. I was 17, I got married. I mean, before marriage, I was 13 when I used to work. Since the age of 12 to the age of 17, I was working and paying my own school fees. That was all the past. But after I got married, I was 17 to the age of 32. I had never worked. So, I was, the only thing I know, I said to her, is being in the kitchen. And she said, well, I've seen that you are very good with your food and everything. So let's see if we can find you jobs. So that was my starting of Kajal's Kitchen. I started cooking in people's homes and I did so many different types of jobs. I did evening studies, and I went into learning massages. I learned how to become a baby yoga and baby massage teacher. Then I did about 9 different types of massages, from which I was practicing the trigger point and lymphatic massage, working along with cancer patients. And from there, things started building. I became a nutritionist, and then, one thing led to another, a well-being coach. And I was just trying to, see and grow. For me, life, the freedom was all about growing. But the most important thing was my children. And what I learned was, as I said, from that third day of getting out of the financial security, obviously, um, I knew that I had to work so hard to make sure that my kids had shelter. Of course, we got help from the council, and of course, we had a shelter on our head. And of course, things weren't the same, going from living in a mansion to living in a very tiny little home, having everything and then having nothing, being able to then count money and not have enough money to pay your bills and everything. Things went to that end. But it was fine, because what was the most pleasurous thing was freedom.
Yeah.
Of speech, freedom of life, freedom of being able to do what you want to do, nobody to tell you how to live your life and how to raise your children. So there it was. A tough life started, and it hasn't stopped. I haven't stopped working. I built myself, and I brought what was most important was the fact that positivity was something that I always projected out there and kept it inside me. It is not just, what I show on the screen. Usually, even in my house with my children, with Paul, it's always, whenever there's any talk that goes around that's even a little don't of, a negative thing, I just turn it around a positive look, and I will always tell my children there's always a positive side to everything. And there is never say never, never say anything is impossible. Everything is possible. If I could come out of being nobody, no confidence, no ability to even look anyone in the eye, leave alone when looking you into the eye. I couldn't even look at a woman into her eye. I was so scared. I was filled with fear. I was such a person who couldn't even hold a conversation. I was completely nobody. But to make me into somebody people can look up to, somebody people can respect, and to find that respect for myself, I had to build myself, and I had to do it myself. It has taken many years. And as I said, nothing has stopped, and it's not stopping. And the journey has been just to inspire people that if I can do it, you can do it too.
Well, I think just by what you've said is just listening to it is truly inspirational. As you know, I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And if they were ever to go through a situation like that, I would hope that they would have even a fraction of the strength that you've had to overcome. Like, it's just, I don't even know. I'm a bit lost for words. Like, where do I start with, like, what you overcame? You overcame so much.
Yeah.
What I'd like to ask is, how did you even... So you get to day 3. Let's skip past all the things that you went through and all the, I don't know, the chipping away at you and losing yourself and your character and who you truly were before you got married. But how did you even start to rebuild that? How did you find the confidence to even take the next step?
Yeah. So what I said, initially was, my mother played a big role in my life. And my mother came from a very good family. When she married my dad, of course, things went down the drain. And my 4 elder sisters never made it to any education. So they didn't go to school. So in our house, education was zero, if you can say so, right? The priority was not, going to school or anything, because it was not, my mother couldn't afford it. I was different because I wanted to study. I always wanted to study. I always wanted to make something of, my life. And I wanted to escape that poverty. I wanted to escape that feeling like you're not good for anything. People look down on you when you have nothing, right?
Yeah.
I always had that dream. And when I was 12, I was in school. I was in state school in Kenya. And again, at that time, I had, somebody was talking about something, a teacher was talking about something, and then that emerged. And, to somebody looking for a student working, who wants to work and earn some money. And I said, yeah, I want to do it. I'm ready. And I had no idea how I was going to do it because I was even struggling with studies. But I said, I'm going to do it. So what I did was I was 12, and from when we came out of school at 3:30, I'd run home because I couldn't afford the fare. So I had to run to get home, be ready, and be to work at 5. So again, I had to walk to work, change my clothes, go to work. And I worked at a video library. And from every day, Monday to Friday, from 5 to 10 o'clock, I'd work at video library, come home, do my homework, and go to sleep. And that was my life. Saturday and Sunday, I worked from 10 to 10. So I had no life. I had no time for friends. I had nothing. From the age of 12 to 17, relentlessly, not a single day of holiday. So I had worked, and I had seen that, I did have that energy in me that I wanted to work. So nothing would have stopped me. But when I had, when after 3 days I had to wake up and work, I didn't feel, you see, most of the times when you have ego stops you from doing many things. In my case, I had to remind myself that I had done that in my life. I had worked hard. I had done jobs to make to pay for my school fees and help my mother with the rent as well. I can do this. This is not going to, I'm not going to let myself down. I'm not going to let my children down. So I worked even to a point where I was dashing out yellow pages. And some people would say, did you not feel shamed? You were so-and-so's wife, and, you were a big flyer and you had to do this kind of jobs. Actually not, because I don't hold no ego. For me, being a human, being a person who's going to show my children that, life is such. One day it's here, another day you're here. You need to learn. It is in your power to empower yourself. No third person is going to do that for you.
Mm.
So I think whenever I held myself up every day, and this is another thing, my mom always used to say that no matter what problems you have in your life, and this is something when I used to get bullied when I was young in school, I used to get bullied a lot. And my mom whenever I used to come home crying or with, bleeding in my arm or something, my mom would say, listen, beta, she said, you have to go to school tomorrow. You cannot not say I'm not going to school tomorrow, because she said, every day you have to become an actress, wear that hat of an actress, smile and go. And she'd say, your problems are for you to solve. Nobody else is going to solve your problems for you.
I like that.
You can choose 2 ways of solving your problem, either by crying and spoiling your face, or by smiling and doing 2 things. If you smile, you are spreading love for the people around you. And at the same time, in yourself, you're solving a problem. So from there on, I've always learned that smiling, put a smiling face, no matter whatever is going on in my house, no matter what problems I have, always, whenever I'm out and in front of people, I always remind myself a smile is the most important thing, because that is what I want people to know. That is what I want people to remember. Yeah. Yes. And problems, everybody has. I have, you have, anybody you come across, people have problems. There is nothing new in that. But we are in a world where more needs solving. Problems need solving, and we can only solve them by showing the strength, the inner strength, by sharing a smile every day, and by making sure that we are spreading some positivity. So my life, when it started as a single mom, from the age of 32, my motto was always smile, Be an actress. No matter what, you can be who you want to be. People don't know anything about you. Kajal, people don't know what has happened to you. Not everybody knows you. You are nobody. So you can be an actress and pretend to be anybody you want. I can be Madhuri Dixit. I can be Shruti, I can be anybody I want, right? Your problems are yours to solve. And that was the mission. I solved my problems. I never went anywhere for help or anything because I knew what was in here. Nobody knows. Nobody knows you better than yourself. Self-healing is where I started. I learned Reiki healing. I became a master of Reiki healing. I healed myself. I knew my ups and downs. I knew my mood swings. I knew everything about me. So learning, and then of course, food played the biggest role in my life.
Yeah.
They say for you to heal, you first need to be healing yourself. And how to heal yourself is through getting that energy from the food that we eat, right?
Yeah.
So food we eat, how we talk, whom we surround ourselves with are the places that we actually take up a lot of energy from. So,
definitely.
That was my journey, that was my daily journey, that food became my and this is what I do, preach every day: food, eat healthy food. So
Yeah.
to cut the story short, that is, I raised my kids like that. And talking about kids is something really important. I'd like to say that it was never easy, easy, because my little one was literally 2 years old, from the time the dramas had started, in my marriage. And the elder one was in the beginning of his GCSEs. So people who are parents out there know the kind of problems you have when raising kids. These are challenges. They're not problems, but they're challenges. They're constantly challenging you, right? And I too had to go through lots of challenges, unseen challenges, unspoken challenges, but they were my challenges. So I took those challenge, and I took that challenge, and I worked on it. And what I worked and what I realized is that you're always taught that because somebody, when I was going through separation with my husband, somebody said, Kajal, you have a roof on top of your head, and he pays for your bills. Just stay in that marriage, because you need that, your kids to grow up, and for your kids to have a life. You need that. That's very important. And actually, I would like to say to that person, and I did say to that person, that they were wrong in saying that to me, right? Because in life, I think any human being growing up, two things most important that a child will always remember is your time spent, how you spend time with your child, and the grounding that you have around you. So financially, yes, matters, because if you have no money, you struggle, your head is all over the place, it all happens. But one thing I really reminded myself was that I grew up in a family. I never forgot where I came from. And I wanted it very different for my kids, that I wanted my kids to have their mother whenever they needed her. Whenever they needed her, they had her. And another thing, they needed a happy home. So my kids were raised in a home where they had the freedom to doing things. At the same time, they knew that the Hitler is standing there with a stick, right? Not a stick, but they knew they had the fear, but at the same time, they had a friend in me to confide. They had a mother in me to speak and love and cuddles. And, they had, I showed them a path in life, that this is the reality of life, And one thing I always raised them in saying, and even now I say to them, is never, ever expect somebody else to raise your vibe. You have to do it yourself. So education wise, they've done so well. They made it into really good universities, and they graduated. 3 of them have graduated and are working good jobs. earning well. And that, I say, is a biggest success for me, because I've given them the tool to, succeed in life. But the last one now is still at university. So we're, just hoping 1.5 years that ends and that's it. But I think raising your kids more than financially, when you are stuck in a marriage, and for those of you who are listening to this, if you're stuck in a marriage where there's no love between you and your partner, and there's no stability in the house, if you're always constantly fighting and arguing and bickering and, downing each other, pulling each other down, stop. Find a way of stopping. Go see professionals where you can actually bring peace. But even if things that you try and things are not going to mend, don't stay in a marriage where you are destroying by thinking in your head that you are actually, marriage is forever and for lasting. Marriage is not a destroying tool for the children. Don't make it a destroying tool for the children's future, because when children are raised in a very unhappy marriage, it not only destroys their personality, their being, but even in the future when they had to leave their own life and their own family, they struggle. They struggle. And I just made sure that I pulled myself out of that. I pulled that plug out, and I raised my kids in a very different way. Their thinking is very different. They see the equality amongst, their friends, their partners, and they treat them very, very differently to what I have seen in my family and in my surroundings. So, they've got a lot of respect for the other person. And they are at peace and in love with themselves. That is what they project with others. So I think happy home is more important than a show. We are not in a showbiz business here. This is reality. Don't stay in a marriage where you're unhappy, because you're unhappy. Even if you don't discuss it with your children, they can feel it. They know it. And it really mentally disturbs people. And I'm a health coach. I come across a lot of clients who come and see me. I do talking therapy, and through that, I say the same thing. There's no good and bad. My husband was a good man. I was a good woman, and then the third lady in there was also a good person. But sometimes things don't match. Sometimes people are not happy. Sometimes we're not able to satisfy people. And so what if you have children? So what? By you having children does not give you the right to destroy your present and then destroy their future. Two things.
Absolutely.
Right? So yeah.
Do you know what? What you're saying is absolutely correct. But a lot of people listening, while they may not disagree with you, they will be thinking, that's easy for you to say, but I just can't do it. Like, I do have other people to think about, like my parents and my extended family. And I'm not saying you didn't, because you obviously did.
Yes.
But while it's easy to talk about it in hindsight, well, not easier, I would say, than when you're actually going through it, because you probably had these doubts and fears yourself.
Totally.
But what would you say to someone who's thinking, like about other people and things like that? I know you've said, like, you can't put on a show and, like, to external people who like don't actually matter, that,
Yeah. So, so what I say is I have family, and my family was Orthodox, so even worse of a problem, right?
Yeah.
In a way that they were quite much, society, what will people say, what will people do? And I had in-laws who were really wonderful people. All of them are wonderful people, but they are not coming to live with me in my house. They were not living with my husband. They were not living in that triangle love between me, him, and her, right? They were not living that life. They were not my children who were every day looking at their parents and thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen tomorrow, or what's going to happen the next? They were not living in that fear. So when I was making my decision, I knew that I had struggled for so many years. And I'm sure my husband would tell you the same thing, that, he struggled for many years being in that marriage. Maybe he didn't love me. Maybe he wasn't in love with me as much as he wanted to. Maybe he loved her more. Who knows? Who knows what happened? Because men don't get the chance to speak. They don't actually tell their story, right?
Yeah.
But as a woman, I decided to speak, and I'm speaking the truth, and I'm saying, here I am, things were like this. You have to think in a long term. What is it that you want? Because if you stay in that marriage because of your parents or because of your auntie or your sister, right? One, you're going to get sick. By the time you are in your 40s and your 50s, you're going to be a very ill person. Either cancer is going to get you or something is going to get you. Because where do all these diseases develop from? It develops from high stress, right? High stress levels in the body, right? And two, you are going to destroy those children. No marriage, such marriage, which is an unhappy marriage. So if you are saying that you're thinking of your parents, your aunties and your sisters, what about yourself and your children? What about yourself? You have a duty, the universe, through the love of whoever produced us, Bhagwan or Allah or, God, whatever you may call that power, that responsibility you have towards that, you have a soul which is beating inside you, and you need to look after that soul. You need to look after that body. But yes, responsibilities are important, but how about you handle all? You handle your body, you handle your responsibility, which is your children. Once you become a parent, your responsibility, all other responsibilities become not valid, except for that one of your children. Your children are your priority. Okay.
100%.
All those people, your parents, your aunties, your sisters, they are grown-up people. They are looking after themselves. They need to think for themselves. You have a responsibility towards your children. And if you do that right, the rest will all fall in its place. Because look at me now. I am friends with everybody, my in-laws or my family, everybody. You are in talking terms. You are, we talk, we are once in a week, we are in a call and hello, hi, oh, love you. And everything is fine. Even with my ex, I don't speak to him. If there is a need for anything to do with the children, I may. But I forgave him straight away, and I taught my children to do the same thing. Forgive him because he's your father. And I don't want to raise my kids with hate. I didn't want them to grow up with anger towards their father, because end of the day, it's their father. So if I was going to, put some really bitter and twisted things into their head and say, oh, because they had seen everything, I didn't need to tell them anything. They lived in the house. They saw everything. They knew what was happening. So I had to, speak to them. I had to nurture them and say to them, forgive and move forward. And the only reason, I know a lot of people say to me, you're stupid, Kajal, why did you, they were better off without him. And I said, no, actually, it is their choice to decide and, make up their own mind if they want to make up their mind. But he has not wronged them. He wronged me. He wronged the marriage. But yes, indirectly, he wronged them in many ways. But now it is their life. And I always say to my kids, I tell them about me that, I had anger towards my dad and it didn't help me. So I didn't want them to have anger towards their dad and grow in such an environment where they were angry about something. No, I want them to grow in an environment where they had the freedom fully to love and to accept and to let go.
Yeah.
So
these are really strong values to teach your children, because a lot of people would not do what you did. It's not something that's easy to do, to raise your children with positivity when you've been through so many things that I guess could be perceived as negative. And I say perceived as negative because you could be stuck back where you were when you were like going through all of this at the age of 32. You could still be in that same mind of either a victim, and I'm not saying that earlier you said you have to take responsibility. I'm not. If someone's going through something right now and feeling worried and scared, and they're going through like a mental health issue or anything like that, I doubt Kajal means either that you have to just grind it out, overcome it, put on a brave face, and just try and plow through. What I think you mean, and what I presume you mean, and what I would mean is that you have to take responsibility at some point.
Yes.
Where not that it's your fault, what's going through is your fault. I mean responsibility in the point that you have to take some form of control to feel better, to move forward, and whether that's asking for help, whether that's trying to do it on your own, whether that's putting on a brave face and just trying to be positive and move forward with one small step at a time.
Yeah, the thing is, when whatever you go through it. It's all done and dusted. It's done. Now, if I would have chosen to cry about it all the time, then I'm actually reliving that life, right? And then I do it when I do coaching with my clients. I always remind them that whatever you have dealt with in your life, you have dealt with it, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, or 10 years, right? But then if you bring that forward into your life, you're actually reliving that problem. Even though my ex-husband is not with me, I could be actually carrying him forward and still carrying on that problem. But if you have to cut that thread at one point, and it's not easy, when, like you said, it is not easy to do that. I did it because I teach meditation, through meditation, a lot of meditation and healing, self-healing. I turned my mindset into such that what happened for a reason. There was a dream of me becoming that person that, was as I said, as a young girl, I always wanted to be that somebody who could, wear good clothes and walk somewhere and maybe for the universe to pull me out of that, where I was just a mother and a wife cooking and feeding 100 people in my kitchen. Maybe it was supposed to be something that, I was supposed to reach out to many people. And to make that dream come true, I had to pass through this river, this narrow river of, problems and overcome. And again, as I said, I was a very naive person before. So maybe for me to become a very strong and able person, I had to go through that journey.
Yeah.
So that was my journey. That journey doesn't have to become my children's journey. My children's journey is different. They can love their father. They can receive love from him. They can do anything they want. They are human beings and they have their own journey. Their journey is not my journey and my journey is not their journey. I was just a person who was in their journey to help them, guide them. Now, the rest of their journey, they have to decide on their own. And that is what I say to all the parents out there, that don't be controlling of your children. Let them have their own freedom of mind. Let them have their own freedom of choice. And that way you will bring out better human beings and better society. We create better society with
100%.
Yeah.
This is something me and you both agree on. I posted something about this, I think a year ago, a couple of years ago. I remember you commenting and just like completely agreeing with what I was saying. And what I was trying to say was that your children are not your belongings. They're not an extension of you. And while that may sound like, but they are an extension of me. Like I produced them. Yeah, you produced them, you gave them life, but that's about it. Like they're not yours. A human being is not something you can control. It's not something you own. Whether you gave them life, it doesn't matter. They are not yours. And while you can guide them, the best way to guide them is to let them be who they were born to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's going to happen? Like, I listened to a video, like I think it was last week, by a guy called Paul Moore. And he was talking about anxiety and stress. And he was saying, anxiety and stress is something that occurs when two things are almost rubbing against each other. And what it is reality, like what is going on in real life and what you want.
Yeah.
So what he was trying to say was, say like, I don't know, somebody wants to become a footballer, but they're worrying about what their parents would think and they need to go to law school. So in reality, they're going to law school, but they want to go down the path of sport. Their life is going to rub. What they really want and what's going to happen, what they're doing for other people is going to clash. And what's that going to lead to? Stress. And like you said, stress leads to illness, mental health problems, worries, fear, and just not positive people, not people that we need in the world. Imagine a parent who's stressed, who lives a life where they are not living a true life that is happy to them. What kind of parent are they going to be? Are they going to deal with situations like, for example, this morning, my daughter did not want to get ready for nursery. It's very easy to shout. And I was thinking about how I would have, I had to be patient and wait for her to just get ready with positivity. I was like, let's do this, let's do things, and that may sound like I'm being a soft parent and someone, I just don't want to be someone who shouts to get my way, or even worse, smack or hit or things like that. Like the way that we were raised, maybe. I was basically I wouldn't say my parents were like bad. I just mean you had a fear-based relationship when you grew up. There were repercussions for not doing what your parents said. And it's something that nowadays I don't want my daughters to grow up, because if they fear me as a parent, who else will they learn to fear? Who, like you said, like if they find a partner in life that is not exactly in line with their values and right for them, I hope that because I've treated them in a way of respect, they would find the strength that you found to go, this is not right for me and I need to put myself first. Even my own father didn't treat me this way, so I need to move forward. And this is one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to have you on, because people listening, women listening, whether they're young, whether they're older, will find this message that you've got as a very powerful message to, whether it's with someone who's trying to focus on a different career, or going through tribulations and trials in their marriage, or raising small children, or anything. It's something that you can transfer into other areas of your life very easily. Like the message that you're trying to say is, one, do what is right for you as a human, as opposed to what is right for everybody else. Because everybody else, it's their business to look after themselves. It's not your business to worry about what other people think of you. And while in this type of society, that's very common. We all worry about like, if I leave this job and start working again and starting again, I have a very low income and I can't afford this stuff, like people are going to think low of me. Why does that matter? Do you see what I mean? Like why? But it's understandable why it matters, because sometimes we are taught that these are things that you should aspire to be. You should aspire to have a lot of money, or look like in society that you are doing success, like you are a success.
Yeah. Always, whenever such doubt comes in mind, I always say, were they happy? The people who advised me, were they happy? People who advised me, they had money and they would say, oh, you must, but were they happy? Yeah. What does happiness mean to you? You must ask yourself that. I had money in my marriage. There was a lot of money. And was I happy? No. So you make your choice. What makes you happy? And if something like money makes you happy, then of course go for it. Keep earning. There are people who just focus on money, and they have no life. But if you want to have a balance of both, go for it. Depends on what you want to do. But more than anything, you come first. And you have a responsibility to you rather than other people. And if you are not whole, then you will never be able to give that wholesomeness to your kids, right? So that's my advice to everybody, my story to everybody today. And this is, I hope this was good, Vin.
Yeah, no, it is absolute. I think what you've had to say today is a very inspiring and strong story and message. And I know we didn't really dive deep into so many things you spoke about. There were so many things that I had questions, but I just didn't want to interrupt your flow. And but yeah, I think what you've had to say today is just generally inspiring. Just listening to you, there is something that I heard on a podcast I was listening to this morning, and I thought I'm going to ask this question to Karjal as well. So it was a powerful question and led to a very deep topic on that podcast. But just for you, if on Friday you were told that you are going to pass away and this is the last day that you have to live on this earth, what is it, one, that you do? What steps do you take? What actions do you take from today? Yeah. Today is, for anyone listening, is a Wednesday, so Kajal has 2 days. And what do you regret the most?
Right. So what I would want to do the most is make sure that I'm with my loved ones, my children, my Poli, my family. Basically, I would want them very close. I'd make every moment with them, talk to them, laugh with them, and just make sure that those last days are just remembered with lots of laughters and lots of cuddles, and just them remembering my energy. That is all I want them to, that is all. What I regret, of course, is the fact that I'm at a distance with my sisters. So, they are in Kenya and I'm here. And I think I would really miss that moment of, something were to happen to me. Oh, my God, I won't be able to hold their hands or give them a cuddle. So that would be my regret. But and of course, maybe another regret I would have is I haven't traveled enough. So please, I don't want to die anymore yet.
I guess right now you don't have the opportunity to travel because of everything that's going on in the world. Yeah. But make sure then those two things that you would regret, you don't let happen. Because you never know. And I hope that's not the answer, that you don't ever pass away anytime soon. So like you said, we spread positivity. But your positivity today has been infectious. And I really do hope that the strength you've shown in your journey and the positivity and the mindset that you've actually had in moving forward and spreading positivity around the rest of the people around you inspires other people to do the same. Whatever you're going through in life, don't let it break you.
Oh, I hope so too. And thank you, Vin. You are such an amazing, amazing soul. And thank you for having me on board. Lots of love to you.
Thank you. And I hope that you found that enjoyable. So if you're still listening, please screenshot this podcast on your phone. What I want you to do is post it on your stories on Instagram and tag both of us. So my Instagram handle is Vin&Beyond. And Karjal, what is your Instagram handle?
It's a Kajal's Healthy Kitchen.
Okay, so please do tag us in the stories if you're still listening to this and watching. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.